get started. Start with prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayo Mudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankaja Nabhaya Nama Pankaja Adine Nama Pankaja Netraya Namaste Pankajangrahe. So today we are reading from Canto 3, which is the status quo, chapter 14, which is pregnancy of Diti in the evening, and verse 25. So we'll get started. Smashana chakra niladhuli dhumra vikirna vidyota jata kalapaha bhashmavaguntha malarukma deho Devastribihi pashyati devaraste. Synonyms: Smashana, burning crematorium; Chakra anila, whirlwind; Dhuli, dust; Dhumra, smoky; Vikirna vidyuta, the smeared over body; Jata kalapaha, bunches of matted hair; Bhashma, ashes; Avaguntha, covered by; Amala, stainless; Rukma, reddish; Deha, body; Devaha, the demigod; Tribihi, with 3 eyes; Pashyati, sees; Devaraha, younger brother of the husband; Te, your. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he is unstained, but he is covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind's dust of the burning crematorium. He is the younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his 3 eyes. Purport: Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity, nor is he in the category of Vishnu or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is far more powerful than any living entity up to the standard of Brahma. Yet he is not on an equal level with Vishnu. Since he is almost like Lord Vishnu, Shiva can see past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun, another is like the moon, and the third eye, which is between his eyebrows, is like fire. He can generate fire from his middle eye, and he is able to vanquish any powerful living entity, including Brahma. Yet he does not live pompously in a nice house, etc. Nor does he possess any material properties. Although he is master of the material world, he lives mostly in the crematorium where dead bodies are burnt. And the whirlwind dust of the crematorium is his bodily dress. He is unstained by material contamination. Kashyapa took him as his younger brother because the youngest sister of Diti, Kashyapa's wife, was married to Lord Shiva. The husband of one's sister is considered one's brother. By that social relationship, Lord Shiva happened to be the younger brother of Kashyapa. Kashyapa warned his wife that because Lord Shiva would see their sex indulgence, the time was not appropriate. Diti may argue that they would enjoy sex life in a private place, but Kashyapa reminded her that Lord Shiva has 3 eyes called the sun, moon, and fire, and one cannot escape his vigilance any more than one can escape Vishnu. Although seen by the police, a criminal is sometimes not immediately punished. The police wait for the proper time to apprehend him. the forbidden time for sexual intercourse would be noted by Lord Shiva, and Diti would meet with proper punishment by giving birth to a child of ghostly character or a godless impersonalist. Kashyapa foresaw this, and thus he warned his wife Diti. So we'll invoke auspiciousness by reciting the Mangalacharan prayers before we get started. Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatadine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Welcome, dear devotees, to the morning Bhagavatam discussion. This topic is quite complex about Shiva, and I'm completely unqualified, but as usual, I'm doing this for my purification. Before I start, I'd like to seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj and all of you wonderful devotees. So I may speak something of some value. So we've been reading about Kashyapa and Diti, right? And how Diti approached her husband, Kashyapa Muni, to beget children. And her plea was that all of my sisters except me have children. Even though all 13 of us are equally faithful to you. So why not me? So we also know that, why is it 13? Because 13 daughters of Daksha, including Diti, all 13 chose to marry Kashyapa Muni. So anyway, so Diti's ask is actually quite valid, right? From a wife to her husband that, I want a child. But the only problem is, as we've been hearing, that the time is not the best for this activity, right? It is the twilight hour or Sandhya Kal, which is the right time for performing Gayatri and other religious activities, right? Which is what Kashyapa Muni was also engaged in, right? He was in a trance, said. But it's not the right time for sexual activities, for sure. Also, Kashyapa Muni warned Diti that Shiva is out and about at this hour with his followers, the ghosts and other spirits, right? And so it's not the right time. So Kashyapa Muni says that don't worry, I will give you a child. However, wait for just one muhurta. Let this Sandhya time pass on, and then we can have union. And in that context, Kashyapa Muni is speaking this particular verse, right, wherein he is describing Lord Shiva. So he says that his body is reddish and covered with ashes. His hair is matted with the whirlwind of the cements, crematorium dust. And he also says that Shiva is actually his younger brother. And how is that? Prabhupada explains that Shiva married Sati, right? Who's the youngest daughter of Daksha. So Sati is the youngest sister of Diti, and so Kashyapa, so Shiva is basically the husband of Kashyapa's younger sister-in-law, and therefore he's considering him as a younger brother. So in the purport, Prabhupada very nicely explains about Lord Shiva, right, and what is Shiva's position. So firstly, he talks about the Jiva Tattva, right? We know about Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. We are, of course, all Jiva Tattva. And as Prabhupada says, all the way up to Lord Brahma is actually Jiva Tattva. And then there is Krishna and Vishnu, Narayan, and others that belong to the Vishnu Tattva. However, he says that Lord Shiva is neither Jiva Tattva nor Vishnu Tattva. He says that Lord Shiva is in a category of his own. Right? He has his own Tattva. He's in his own Tattva. And he's definitely above Jiva Tattva, but not quite Vishnu Tattva. So, who is he? Right? Who is Lord Shiva? In recent times, we've heard many, many times actually from His Holiness Ramabhadra Swami Maharaj, even as he was giving the seminar about Shiva, that Shiva Tattva is very, very complex, right? And it's difficult to really comprehend. In the Brahma Samhita, in fact, Shiva's relationship with Krishna, with Govinda is nicely explained. So read this. It's in Brahma Samhita 5.45. It says, Hiram yatha dadhi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahita tatha pithak asti hetu ya shambhutam api tatha samupaiti karyat govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So the translation says, just as milk is transformed into curd by the actions of acids, but yet the effect, curd, is neither same as nor different from its cause, which is milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Vishnu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. In the purport, and this purport, by the way, is by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So it's a little difficult to understand, but we'll read a little bit. So he says that the real nature of Shambhu, the presiding deity of Mahesh Dham, is described. Shambhu is not a second godhead other than Krishna. So very important to understand that and acknowledge that Shambhu is not a second godhead. Those who entertain such discriminating sentiment commit a great offense against the Supreme Lord. The supremacy of Shambhu is subservient to that of Govinda. Hence, they are not really different from each other. The non-distinction is established by the fact that just as milk treated with acid turns into curd, so Godhead becomes a subservient when he himself attains a distinct personality by the addition of a particular element of adulteration. Okay. What is this element of adulteration? He talks about it as the stupefying quality of the deluding energy. So just basically Mahamaya, right, coming in touch with Prakriti. And he also says that this personality has no independent initiative. Okay, so again, like I said, it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's language, so it's a little difficult. But our Srila Prabhupada has explained in many lectures the same thing, right? And he has very simply said that, and remembering one of his lectures, he says that just like if you mix up milk with something sour, it turns into yogurt or curd. Similarly, the difference between Shiva and Lord Krishna is like that. So Shiva is Krishna, but because he is, he mixed up with with the material energy, so he turned into curd, right? So the constitutional position of curd, Prabhupada explains, is nothing but milk. But the thing is, it cannot become milk again. So they are not, interchangeable. Once the milk turns into curd, it cannot turn back into milk, right? And also, very importantly, in terms of that of not being independent, says that you cannot really derive the benefit of milk from yogurt. So that's how Prabhupada very simply explains in many lectures. He has this explanation. So for our purposes, to delve a little bit into the distinctions between Jiva Tattva, Lord Shiva, and Krishna, we can talk about, the qualities, right, of these three tattvas. So we know that Krishna has unlimited qualities, right? But out of which 64 are said to be the primary qualities. Now, Jiva, out of those 64 qualities, the Jiva has a maximum of 50 qualities, and that too in very minute quantities. We hear that, while Krishna is Vibhu, we are Anu, right? Very, very small, very tiny. Our qualities are also very tiny. And that too, all these 50 qualities don't exist in us at the same time. So sometimes, a few of these 50 qualities manifest, and then sometimes some other do, right? Now, Vishnu or Narayan, Vishnu Tattva. So Krishna has 64, we have 50. Vishnu or those in Vishnu Tattva have 60 qualities. So the hierarchy is becoming visible, right? So we have Krishna Tattva with 64 qualities, Vishnu Tattva with 60 qualities, Jiva Tattva with 50. So the next obvious question is, what about Shiva, right? So Shiva is said to have 55 qualities. So that is 5 more qualities than Jivas. But the thing is that the 50 qualities that Jivas, that we have in very minute quantities, Shiva has them in much higher measure. Okay? So, all of those 55 qualities are very well manifested and visible in Shiva. So in a recent, I was listening to a lecture, a Shivratri lecture, in fact, by His Holiness Bhaktirasamrita Swami Maharaj. And he talked about the 5 additional qualities that Shiva has. So I'll just list them out. I don't know very much about them, and I don't really know the source either. But thought that was interesting to know. So the first one is Sada Swarup Sampraptaha, which means Shiva is always situated in his Swarup, and he is unchanging. Okay? He does not, he's not like us. We in the sense that, as the pure Jiva, of course, we are unchanging, but within our material bodies, we are constantly changing, right? Shiva is Sadaswarup Sampraptaha. And then the second quality is Sarvagya. So he knows everything, past, present, and future. And that's why he's called Trikalagya. Again, unlike us who, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We barely know what's going on in the present. And we sometimes, most often, forget what's happened in the past, right? So that's why in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Since he is almost like Lord Vishnu, yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada says that since he is almost like Lord Vishnu, yeah, since he's almost like Lord Vishnu, Shiva can see the past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun, another is like the moon, and his third eye, which is between his eyebrows, is like fire. He can generate fire from his middle eye. And he's able to vanquish any powerful entity, including Brahma. And so he has that, power. And that's why Kashyapa is, he says that even if we unite in a private place, Shiva will still be able to see us. Okay, so that's its second quality, additional quality. The third is Nitya Nutan. Shiva's body is always fresh. He does not age. We never see him, represented as looking old or gray. So just like Krishna, Shiva is Nitya Nutan. And then fourth is he has a Satchidananda Sandra Anga. His Anga or his body is Satchidananda, which does not dwindle like us. He's always in bliss. And then fifth is Sarva Siddhi Niveshitaha. So Shiva naturally has all the siddhis, all the yoga siddhis that we talk about, Anima, Lagima, Mahima, and whatnot. Those are naturally existing in him. And he does not have to go through, all the processes, our yoga, Ashtanga yoga, etc. That, that we have to, that yogis have to, right, in order to acquire. So that's why Shiva is so special. And, he has his own tattva, and, he's so special, right? And that's also the reason why in that Brahma Samhita verse it says that he is endowed with samupaiti karya. He has some very important responsibilities. One of which is a very important responsibility in this material universe is destruction of the material universe. So we already know that Shiva, we know of Shiva as the destroyer. However, Shiva also has a huge hand in creation, along with Brahma. But Shiva has a huge hand in creation. And what is that? While, Durga is considered the material mother, Shiva is actually considered the father from the material perspective. And the reason for that is because, while Krishna says, Aham Bija Pradapita, and, he supplies the seed from which living, life grows, but he does it through Shiva, right? So Shiva actually bears and, he carries that bija into the material world as Shambhu. So that's because Shiva, so that's because Krishna does not directly associate with Durga or Mahamaya, right? He does it through Shiva, right? And so Shiva bears the seed to Durga. So Shiva is considered the material father, while Durga is the material mother. And then, of course, we know that Lord Shiva is a Guna avatar. He presides over the mode of ignorance. Of course, that does not mean that he is in ignorance at all, right? And in fact, it's he's definitely way better than ignorance. And in fact, in one of the lectures, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada talks about just like a person in charge of the criminal department or jail department, we should not think that he is also one of the prisoners just because he's in charge of the jail department. No, similarly, Lord Shiva, he is in charge of the modes of ignorance, but he is not ignorant. He is in fact the most enlightened devotee of the Lord. And he has got a parampara, a disciplic succession of his own. Right? And so we know that he is Vaishnavanand Yatha Shambhu. He's one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. So, so another aspect of Shiva is he's also called Bhuta, right? And that's because the ghosts and spirits and other marginalized beings are his followers, and Shiva is very compassionate towards them. He gives them his shelter and protection, right? And as Jagadananda Prabhu was explaining from yesterday's verse, that Shiva helps these bodiless spirits, these ghosts and things, by placing them in wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse, uh, regardless of the restrictions of time and circumstance. And that's the situation Diti is in right now, right? And so and is vulnerable to this happening, that so a ghostly spirit is actually going to be born from her. And that's why Kashyapa Muni warns her about this. So we also know that Shiva is Ashutosh. He's easily pleased, and he grants his devotees benedictions, to very easily to satisfy their material desires, although he himself is completely renounced, right? And so Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that he does not live pompously in a nice house, nor does he possess any material possessions, material properties, although he is the master of the material world, right? But he himself lives in a crematorium, right, where dead bodies are burned. So that's it from the purport. Just a little more, with Gaur Purnima coming up, we want to see how Shiva is linked with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, in Krishna Leela, we know that Shiva in Vrindavan, he resides in Vrindavan as the Kshetrapal or Dikpal, guarding Vrindavan from 4 directions. Right, so he is Krishna's Dham Rakshak, and he exists as Gopeshwar Mahadev, Chakleshwar Mahadev, Bhuteshwar, so on. But in Gaur Purnima also, in Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Leelas also, there are many instances where he interacts, or Shiva and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu interact. During Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South India Yatra, in Sri Saila, it is said that Shiva and Durga were there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met with them. He actually stayed with them, says, and they had some very sweet confidential exchanges. And earlier, when in Navadvip, a mendicant had come to Mahaprabhu's house, and the mendicant was singing glories of Shiva, Mahaprabhu immediately took the mood of Shiva, and it is said that he took the form of Shankar as well, with matted locks of hair, and he jumped on the shoulders of that singer and shouted that I am that Shankara. So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed various forms, and this was one of them that he did. And then in relation to Mayapur, in Yogpit, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace, there is a Shivalinga established, and that Shivalinga is said to be the Kshetrapal of Adardvip. And while Mayadevi generally covers the dham, from the general conditioned visitors, the conditioned souls that visit, but Mayadevi and this Shiva together have a very confidential service, which is of identifying pure devotees of Mahaprabhu and manifesting the real dham, Mayapur dham, Navadvip dham in their hearts. Okay, so that's one service that Shiva has in Mayapur, and that place actually is called Shivadova. Shivadova. Also in Godruma Dweep, there is which is one of the 9 islands of Navadvip. There is a Harihar Mandir where there's a deity which is half Shiva, half Hari, basically. So yeah, half Hari and half Hara. Okay. And then another nice one, very sweet one, is there is a place called Mahavaranasi or Mahakashi in in the Navadvip area. And Nityananda Prabhu had told Jiva Goswami that this Mahakashi is even more significant than the Kashi that we know of, right, in northern India. And why? Because Lord Shiva apparently resides in this Mahakashi doing kirtan, and calling out to Gaura Hari. And Nityananda Prabhu also said that if someone leaves their body there, he whispers Gauranga in their ears. So we know, right? Antakare chamam eva smaran mukta kalevaram. So by hearing Gauranga's name, that the soul leaves the body and achieves perfection and goes back. So yes, just so sweet and heartwarming. Of course, there's a lot more to say about Shiva. He has multiple abodes, many forms, but it's beyond my capacity and definitely beyond this time. So I'll end here. Thank you very much. Sorry if I misspoke anything. I would invite others to please add some comments or realizations. Thank you, please.
Hare Krishna, Mathaji, please accept my humble obeisances. Allah is Prabhupada. Such a free-flowing, beautiful class on Lord Shiva. And, I don't understand much about it. But, one other thought, just one additional point was that in Simantadweep as well, if I'm not wrong, isn't that the place where Parvati asked Lord Shiva, how are you so ecstatic? What are you chanting? And he says, I'm chanting Gauranga's name. And that's where, in her parting, I forget the details of that pastime, but such ecstatic. And, I was thinking as you were speaking, even in Krishna Leela, how he comes, and then Mother Yashoda, she's afraid. She says, here is somebody who has such strange appearance. But then Krishna, he cries, and then they have such sweet exchanges, like transcendental exchanges. Anyway, very, very nice class, beautiful class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mathaji. It is so sweet. I mean, all these, leelas. Some Zoom user is saying it's Nityananda Prabhu that stayed with Shiva and Parvati. But in Chaitanya Bhagavat, actually, Chaitanya Bhagavat, and I think it is in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya, it says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also stayed during his South India Yatra with Shiva and Parvati in Sri Saila. So, yeah, maybe Nityananda did as well. I don't know. Anything else? Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Mataji. It's so humbling to hear all this glorification of Lord Shiva.
So nice. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for taking us through the journey.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was such a nice journey for me, to go through and dig into and learn. It's beautiful. Okay, please.
Hare Krishna.
I will stop here then. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo. Thank you, Krishna.